I still remember that night like a scar etched into my memory. Soft jazz humming from the corner speaker, the smell of roasted coffee beans hanging thick in the air, and rain streaking down the cafe windows like tears the city didn't want to cry. I'd been on my feet for 10 hours straight. My apron strings were cutting into my waist, and my hands smelled like dish soap and cheap sanitizer. But the thing that weighed me down the most wasn't exhaustion. It was the rent due in 3 days, and the fact that my 8-year-old daughter, Lily, had outgrown her shoes again. Table 12. My manager, Carla, whispered, leaning close. Big spender. Be polite, and don't mess this one up. I nodded automatically, though I didn't know what messing up even meant anymore. You couldn't mess up being invisible. When I approached table 12, I almost missed him. A tall man sitting alone in the corner, wearing a dark gray suit that probably cost more than my yearly salary. His hands were wrapped around a cup of black coffee, untouched and already cold. He looked tired. Not the kind of tired you fix with sleep, but the kind that sits behind your eyes and stays there. Good evening, I said, forcing a smile. Would you like to see the dessert menu? He lifted his gaze, and for a second, I forgot how to breathe. His eyes, they weren't cold exactly, but distant. The kind of look people get when they've seen too much and said too little. No, he murmured, voice deep but quiet. Just the coffee is fine. All right, sir, I said softly, backing away. But as I turned, he added, Do you ever get tired of pretending to be cheerful? I froze. My tray almost slipped. When I turned back, he was still watching me. Not unkindly, but with a strange curiosity. I'm sorry, I stammered. He gave a faint smile. It's just the way you smile. It looks like you do it even when it hurts. My chest tightened. For a moment, I wanted to snap, to tell him he didn't know me. But something about his tone, weary, almost tender, made me stop. I guess we all have to sometimes, I said, barely above a whisper. He nodded slowly. Yes, I suppose we do. That night, he stayed for hours. Didn't eat, didn't drink. Just sat there, lost in thought. When he finally stood to leave, he placed a crisp $100 bill under his cup and walked out without a word. I thought that was it. Just another strange customer. But the next night he came back, and the night after that, always the same table. Always the same order, a single cup of coffee he never touched. Soon the other waitresses started whispering. Maybe he's one of those lonely rich guys, one joked. Probably lost his wife or something. I didn't laugh. There was something about him that didn't feel like a joke. One evening, after closing, I noticed he'd left his wallet behind. A heavy leather one, black and worn around the edges. Carla, I called out. That man, and he left his wallet again. But Carla was already locking up, muttering something about her ride being late. I sighed and turned the wallet over in my hands. It smelled faintly of cologne, cedar, and smoke. When I opened it, I saw several platinum cards, a few $100 bills. And then, a photo. My hand froze. It was an old picture, faded, creased at the corners. A young woman stood smiling in front of a small-town cafe wearing a waitress uniform that looked exactly like mine. Her hair was tied up in a messy bun, and in her arms was a baby girl, Lily. My knees went weak. The photo slipped from my trembling fingers. It couldn't be. That was me. That was my daughter. I grabbed the photo again, staring at it through a haze of disbelief. But there was no mistake. I remembered that picture. It was taken 9 years ago, before everything went wrong. Before the man I loved disappeared without saying goodbye. Before Ethan Carter. And suddenly, I understood why the stranger's eyes felt so familiar. I stumbled to the door, clutching his wallet like a lifeline, my heart pounding in my chest. But by the time I rushed outside, the street was empty. Only the rain remained, whispering against the pavement, washing away any trace that he'd ever been there. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat by Lily's bed, watching her tiny chest rise and fall. Your dad's alive, I whispered, and he's been right in front of me all along. The next evening, I went back to work early. I didn't tell anyone what I'd found. I just waited, staring at the door, every jingle of the bell making my heart jump. When he finally walked in, wearing that same gray suit and that same quiet sadness, I felt my throat close. I walked up to his table slowly, the wallet clutched in my shaking hands. You left this, I said. He looked at it, and then at me. His expression flickered. Just for a moment, something broke through the calm, a shadow of recognition. Thank you, he said softly, reaching for it. But I didn't let go. There's a photo inside, I whispered. Do you know who it is? He froze, his eyes darted to mine. It's me, I said. And that's our daughter. For a moment, time stopped. The cafe's hum faded away. His face went pale, eyes wide with disbelief, then pain, then something like fear. I thought. His voice cracked. They told me you were gone. Gone? I repeated, breath trembling. Ethan, you left without a word. I waited for months. He shook his head, tears brimming. No, I didn't leave you. I was in that accident, the one on the highway. I lost everything, my memory, my name, even where I came from. They said no one came looking for me. I didn't know. I felt the air leave my lungs. My vision blurred. You didn't know. He reached across the table, his hand hovering over mine, trembling. I never stopped feeling something missing, even when I didn't know what. It was you. It was both of you. My tears fell silently onto the counter. For the first time in years, I saw the Ethan I'd loved, not the billionaire, not the stranger, but the man who used to hold me while the world outside fell apart. He didn't come back to the cafe for 3 days. Those were the longest 72 hours of my life. I kept replaying that moment over and over, his shaking voice, the tears in his eyes, the way he said, I didn't know. Part of me wanted to believe him. Part of me wanted to hate him. When you raise a child alone, resentment grows quietly, like weeds beneath the roses. But then I'd look at Lily, laughing with her toothy smile and her wild curls, and I'd think, she deserves to know her father, even if my heart never forgives him. On the 4th day, just as the rain returned, the bell over the cafe door rang. I looked up, and there he was. He wasn't wearing the gray suit this time. Just jeans, a black coat, and that same look of quiet guilt. He walked toward me slowly, holding a small box in his hands. Can we talk? He asked. Carla gave me a curious look from behind the counter, but I nodded. Let's go out back. We stepped into the alley behind the cafe, where the rain dripped from the awning and the world smelled of wet pavement and old coffee grounds. He took a deep breath. I went to see her, he said. My heart stopped. Lily? He nodded. I didn't tell her who I was. I just watched from a distance. She was leaving school. She looked so much like you, it hurt. Tears stung my eyes again. You shouldn't have done that without me. I know, he said softly. But I needed to see her once, just once, to be sure I wasn't dreaming. He opened the box. Inside was a small silver bracelet, engraved with the word, Hope. I bought this when I woke up from the coma, he whispered. I didn't know why. The doctor said people who lose their memory sometimes cling to feelings they can't explain. I guess I was clinging to hope. I looked down at the bracelet, then back at him. You built an empire, Ethan. You became a billionaire. You could have had anyone, anything, and yet... He gave a humorless laugh. And yet I still felt empty. Money fills the world around you, but leaves the inside hollow. I felt something shift inside me. The walls I'd built for survival, resentment, anger, pride, started to crack. But I wasn't ready to let him in. Not yet. Lily doesn't need your money, I said quietly. She needs your presence, if you can give that. He nodded, eyes shining. That's all I want. I don't expect forgiveness. I just want a chance to be your father. And maybe one day, your friend again. Something in his voice made me believe him. That night, for the first time, Ethan came home with me. He met Lily, really met her. She was shy at first, hiding behind my apron. Mom, who's this? I looked at him, unsure how to explain years of pain in a single sentence. But before I could speak, Ethan knelt down, meeting her eye level. I'm someone who's been looking for you for a long time, he said softly. Lily studied his face. Then, without warning, she reached out and hugged him. He froze, tears spilling silently down his cheeks. I turned away, pressing my hand to my mouth, trying not to cry. That evening, we sat together for dinner, the three of us. It felt both strange and natural. The silence wasn't awkward. It was healing. After dinner, Ethan washed the dishes, something I hadn't seen a man do in years. He joked clumsily about breaking one of my favorite mugs, and Lily giggled. It was a small thing, but it felt enormous. Days turned into weeks. Ethan kept coming back, not with gifts, not with money, but with effort. He'd pick Lily up from school, help her with homework, even fix the leaky faucet that had been dripping for months. Sometimes I'd catch him watching us from across the room, eyes soft, grateful, almost reverent. One night, as I was closing the cafe, Carla leaned over and said, That man of yours looks at you like you're home. I laughed quietly. He's not mine. Not anymore, she smirked. Maybe not yet. But she was right about one thing. There was something unspoken building between us again. A slow, fragile redemption. Months passed. Lily started calling him Dad naturally, without my prompting. And every time she did, I saw Ethan's shoulders shake slightly. The kind of tremor that comes from being forgiven by life itself. One evening, as we watched the sunset from the porch, he turned to me. I don't know if I'll ever deserve a second chance, he said, but I'll spend the rest of my life trying to. I looked at him, really looked. The man who had once been lost in luxury and loneliness now sat beside me, humble and whole, and for the first time in a decade, my hands didn't shake because sometimes redemption doesn't come as a grand gesture, it comes as a quiet return. I smiled faintly, then start by pouring us some coffee. It's getting cold, he laughed, that warm, deep laugh I remembered from years ago. And just like that, the past didn't vanish and it softened. That night, as the stars flickered above our small house, I whispered to Lily, remember, sweetheart, sometimes people get lost, but love has a strange way of finding them again. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to Tale Story House for more stories that heal souls and remind us of what truly matters.